Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. It looks like it finally happened. We've been watching this volcanic eruption in Iceland near the town of Grindavík, a town of about 3,000 people. And it started making a lot of news a while ago. I wasn't exactly sure why, because they were looking at the fact that it was kind of near this town, and I don't know. But there was a lot of news about it, and then finally the eruption happened, but nothing happened. It seemed like Grindavík was okay, and all this time has gone by, and now just yesterday, lava has flown into the town. So just so you can visualize it, like where it's at. Okay, here's Iceland, there's Greenland, there's Europe. So Grindavík is in pretty much the far southwest of the country, and from what I can tell, it seems like it's like somewhere around here that a fissure has opened and lava is flowing down into the city. And so this is something that I'm going to follow closely. It's kind of just starting right now. It's unclear exactly what's going to happen next, but I don't know if this is going to be a situation like Lahaina and like Paradise, California, where you have a city that's essentially destroyed by, in this case, lava, but ultimately by fire, which it's already, to me, it's already a sign of the times that this is even happening in the first place. But if it ends up taking out the whole city, then I feel like it's even more of a sign. So I want to look through some of these videos and pictures, and then go through the details, and then after that look at the big picture when it comes to volcanoes worldwide and volcanic activity, because I have some updates in regards to that. So this is from Mr. J Ragnarok. If you don't know what Ragnarok is, you should if you've watched Thor Ragnarok, part of the Marvel movies. That's where I learned about it. But Ragnarok is like the last days in Norse mythology. So yeah, I feel like that's a pretty accurate description of what's going on here, and just generally what's happening worldwide is it seems like there's a compression of events. But anyway, Ragnarok. The magma has inhaled entire houses in Grindavík, Iceland, after the recent volcanic eruption, reportedly from January 14th, 2024. All right, the next one. Wu-Tang is for the children. That's the name of the account. And of course, that's not true. A new volcanic fissure opened up right outside of Grindavík, Iceland, and lava is now going into the town. Thankfully, people aren't idiots like we got here and don't listen to the scientists, and the entire town has been fully evacuated. Not sure what that's referring to, but it has been evacuated, and I think it's been evacuated a number of times. But this is definitely something that you do not want to see in your own town. So there you can see the lava making its way. Volcaholic, sadly, the house first touched by the lava is now on fire. And so, yeah, it's a very sad situation. Next, there's this here. You can just drone footage of it coming into the town. Let's move on from there. Not going to read all these, but here's another one. This is from Nihal Belgers. These aerial, these aerial photos of Grindavík are unreal, and it looks like this is before the lava actually reached the town. I don't know what the chances are that it would take out the whole town. Just the way that I picture it, the modeling in my head is that it would like flow down through here and maybe take out a section. But I can't imagine it like taking out the entire town, but I could be wrong. Let's translate this. Regardless of how it ends, those who decide to build the protective barriers in defense of Grindavík in recent weeks deserve great recognition. Look how they managed to divert the main lava flow. Oh yeah, so you can see that right there. And it looks like it's pretty much worked. In fact, it looks like if it wasn't for that, it looks like you would just, well, it's kind of like gone through there, but you would go through that in force, it seems, straight toward the town. So yeah, good job. Here is a video of people working on, I think, that barrier as there's lava all around them. Those are some kind of working conditions. The lava is only like a few yards or meters away from this machine. Holy cow. Numerous new cracks have emerged and old ones have widened in Grindavík over the past 24 hours, according to the road administration following a site inspection. Let's take a closer look at this. This is something that had already happened before the very first eruption. And I think the first eruption was back in December. But there were a bunch of earthquakes, which were an indication that there was going to be an eruption. And then you had these large cracks develop in the ground. And it looks like that continues all the way until now. Volcanoes, no trace has yet been found of a man who fell into a crevice in Grindavík yesterday. Searchers in the area say they will search all night and into the morning if necessary. Oh my gosh. That is not good. Pray for that person. And Ragnarokselson says the 14th of the 14th of January 2024 will go down in the history books as a sad day in the history of Iceland in the small fishing village of Grindavík on the Reykjanes Peninsula. Our thoughts are with the people of Grindavík during these challenging times. Yeah, this is crazy. It's just, it takes me back to the wildfires that were taking place in Canada in around like August, September of 2023, because, you know, there were these apocalyptic scenes like this, like scenes that looked like exactly what you would expect the last days to look like, especially in Kelowna in British Columbia, but other places too. You know, like, again, we talked about Lahaina, Hawaii, and I mean, here it is. If you're looking for a cinematic for it to be a sign, then here it is. Just look at that. Okay, so let's get into the details, and then after that, we'll look into the overall big picture when it comes to volcanoes. NPR, an Icelandic town is evacuated after a volcano eruption sends lava into nearby homes. Okay, lava from a volcanic eruption in southwestern Iceland has streamed into a nearby town, engulfing homes and forcing the evacuation of local residents. The Icelandic I always have a problem with that word. Meteorological office said the eruption began just before 8 a.m. local time Sunday, about a half mile from the town of Grindavík, after a series of intense earthquakes. A second fissure opened after noon Sunday and sent lava flows into the town, officials said. An eruption on December 18th, now I think this was the initial eruption, sent lava spewing into the air, but residents had already been told to leave due to heightened seismic activity. So far, no flights have been disrupted, and officials are monitoring threats to infrastructure. At least 3 homes have either burned down or been overtaken by lava, according to the Icelandic broadcaster RUV. And this seems to be the most recent news that I can find, that there's 3 homes that have been destroyed. So as of right now, at the time that I'm making this, that's the current situation. Right now is 1:36 p.m. on the 15th. Iceland is a hot spot for seismic activity with 32 active volcanoes. A volcano erupts roughly every 5 years in the country, though eruptions have occurred more frequently recently. So that's interesting. I'd like to see the overall history, if this is like a big spike or is it like really unusual? I don't know. But now let's hop over to live science. Iceland volcano. Situation in Grindavík has become, quote unquote, very bleak following new eruption. A volcano on Iceland's Reykjanes, and yes, I did look up the pronunciation of that, Reykjanes Peninsula, has resumed erupting after a 4-week hiatus, with new fissures opening near the town of Grindavík. The Icelandic Met Office, or IMO, announced Sunday, January 14th. Seismicity and ground deformation data indicate a magma dike running down the Reykjanes Peninsula has reached beneath Grindavík. Magma flowing into the dike may have, quote unquote, reactivated existing faults and fractures in Earth's crust and likely open brand new fissures, the statement said. More fissures could open in the coming days as magma continues to feed the dike, experts told the Iceland Monitor. So I don't know, maybe it's not so much what I was saying before, like how it seems like it's all just going to come from this one point and then go right down, like the middle of town. But maybe more fissures are going to open in other locations, and then the city will be in more trouble as a result. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. A professor of volcanology and petrology at the Icelandic University told the Iceland Monitor that eruptive activity has shifted from the upper fissure to creep closer to Grindavík, foreshadowing 2 possible scenarios. Okay, these are the 2 possible scenarios. One scenario is, quote, one scenario is that if the shift is made, then the activity will continue into the lower fissure. And I think if I understand this right, that's like the one that's like closer to the town. Okay, he said, if this is the case and the eruption continues, lava will continue to flow towards the town. The other scenario, which is even worse, is that this is in addition to what is happening in the upper fissure, he said. This increases the eruption. It's looking likely that magma will push into the dike and extend it further down the peninsula, that person said. Quote, it seems to me that the fissure is always getting longer. The situation has unfortunately become very bleak for Grindavík, end quote. Below are images of the eruption so far, showing lava flows creeping towards the evacuated houses in Grindavík. And we don't really need to look at these too much because we've already looked on X. Okay, so hopefully it doesn't get worse, but it doesn't sound too good. New fissures may open up, and there's a few different scenarios, but we'll just have to keep an eye on this. And then hopefully that guy that fell down the crack will get back up, will be found okay, and then rescued. Okay, so now I want to look really quick at a couple things. I've added this to my spreadsheet called Signs Disasters, just my master disaster spreadsheet. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. But here you have it right here. But I also have this that I'm trying to keep track of, which is Volcanoes Worldwide. And I have a couple spreadsheets for that. So the first one is the weekly eruptions, okay? And I get this information and this data from the Smithsonian Institute National Museum of Natural History Global Volcanism Program. And they have a couple different things that you can look at here. One is their Smithsonian/USGS Weekly Volcanic Activity Report, or WVAR. So that's this first spreadsheet that we're going to look at. And then they also have volcanoes by year. Okay. Now, when it comes to the weekly report, they don't have all volcanoes worldwide on it. It's mostly like tracking new and more like in volcanoes that are more of a temporary, or eruptions that are more of a temporary nature. If you go to their criteria and disclaimers, it says more than a dozen volcanoes globally have displayed more or less continuous eruptive activity for decades or longer. and such routine activity is typically not reported here. So that's the one thing. And then they give further definitions for a few other things. So it's not necessarily every volcano. It's just the ones that are more, like I said, temporary and new. Okay. Excuse me. So when we look at that, this is what I have. This only goes back to 2020 because I have to do this manually. I have to go here, I have to go here and then go to archive and then pick the year and then pick the week and then just count it up. There's not an easy way to compile the weekly reports. So the furthest back that I've gone is 2020. And now that 2023 is over, this is the final number for the average for the year. So what I did is I went week by week. The numbers come out typically every Wednesday. And I did a yearly average for each year. If you took all these numbers, all the number of volcanoes on each weekly report, and then you do an average, you come up with this number. And this is what you end up with right here in this. Here, let me zoom in just a little bit more, maybe. This is what you end up with. So from 2020 until the end of 2023, there has been an upward trend when just looking at the weekly report. So more volcanoes erupting. It's not like really drastic. And again, it should be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt just because who knows what it looks like if I went further back. I'm not sure how far back I will go, if at all, because it takes a lot of time. I don't know if it would be worth it or not, but this is what it looks like at least since 2020. And then overall, if you put all the weeks on here, not just the yearly, this is the yearly averages. See, 2020, 2021, 22, 23. But this one is all the weekly reports together. And of course, it follows the same thing. There's an upwards trend. So that's interesting to note. And then we have our first report for 2024, which was 21. The most that I've seen so far for a week is 38. That was back in March 30th of 2022. That report showed 38. And then the second most was also in 2022 on November 9th with 32. I have these color coded by tens. So if it's in the 30s, it's in red. And those are the only two in red. 20s are in the orange. And then if it's in the tens or below, then it's in yellow. So 2020 was actually a pretty quiet year. You have a lot of yellow for the year 2020. And then 2023 was all mostly orange. So anyway, but it's all indicated with this line chart right here. Okay, now let's move on to the year by year report. You can find this here. They have a little disclaimer, which I didn't read before. So I have to I'm now updating my understanding of these numbers. So it says, here, I'll zoom in. It says, our primary conclusion is that overall volcanism has not increased, but that the apparent rise is due to reporting bias issues, where recent improvements in communication and technology, especially satellites, have allowed observation of low-level activity that went unrecorded in the past. So, yeah, before I read that, I thought that there was a definite increase in volcanic activity. So here's all the same numbers. I just copied and pasted it from the Smithsonian website and came up with these line charts right here. So they go back to the year 1960. Now, I don't know at what point things became more normal the way that they are recently, like when these new techniques and technologies came online, and it's been like the same since that time, so I have no idea, but just based on their raw data that they have, this is what the trend line looks like. And you'd be like, oh yeah, definitely volcanic activity is increasing. Well, apparently not. You know, and there's nothing that you can do. You can't go back in time with a time machine and then redo all these recordings. So it's just, it is what it is. And so what I decided to do was do a new set of graphs that go back to the year 2010. It's a nice, you know, round number, 2010, just so we can see what it's been like in recent times, because I'm sure that however they do things right now has probably been around at least since 2010. I don't know. But if we're looking at total eruptions per year, you can see that if anything, the trend line is going down a little bit. It's pretty parallel to the x-axis, but it's slightly trending down since 2010 compared to if you look at it since 1960, but also realizing that they weren't using necessarily the same methods back in time, then the trend line is going up. And I wish that we had better data, more consistent readings, but we don't. For new eruptions per year, okay, so these like brand new eruptions, from 1960, it was slightly trending up, but since the year 2000 or since the year 2010, it's actually been trending down with new eruptions. It's been going down. So that's interesting. And then active volcanoes per year. So active volcanoes per year is different from total eruptions because total eruptions would take into account a single volcano that has erupted multiple times, you know, but active volcanoes just takes count of the volcanoes, not the eruptions that they produce. So you may have one volcano, maybe it erupted 3 times. Well, we're not counting that with active volcanoes. It's just the volcanoes themselves. So here you have it for active volcanoes, an upward trend since 1960. But since 2010, it's also been an upwards trend slightly. It's been slightly going up, active volcanoes per year. So anyway, that's what we have. I'm going to continue to monitor this to see, you know, if anything crazy happens, whether things go really, really quiet or whether, you know, things go off the charts or if they just stay the same. I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. So make of that whatever you will, but at least since 2010, things don't seem like they've changed too much. If anything, it seems like it's kind of like going down. I guess it just depends on which graph you're looking at, but not like a ton of change, I don't think. Okay, so that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.